It was just another quiet evening at the upscale coastal restaurant. Dim lighting, soft jazz play in the background, the kind of place where millionaires and celebrities dined in peace. Olivia, a sharp-eyed waitress in her late 20s, had worked there for 3 years. She'd seen all types of people come and go, but none quite like the couple who walked in that night. The man was tall, clean-cut, and carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone used to being in control. Billionaire tech investor David Cole. The woman on his arm. Stunning, poised, and a little too perfect, his wife, Vanessa. They smiled at everyone, but there was something off about their chemistry. Olivia noticed it right away. She wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but you pick things up when you're constantly moving between tables. The laughter at their table was forced. The smiles faded the moment no one was watching. Something about Vanessa's eyes, cold and calculating, made Olivia's skin crawl. She couldn't explain it, but something deep inside told her this wasn't just another high-end dinner between a power couple. It was a setup. David barely touched his food. Vanessa, on the other hand, kept ordering drinks for him. Strong ones. She hardly drank herself. Olivia found it strange, especially when Vanessa kept nudging him, whispering in his ear, pressing him to leave early. Then, when Vanessa stepped away to take a call, Olivia got her chance. She walked over to David's table with a calm face, but her heart was pounding. She leaned down, pretending to clear the dishes, and in the softest whisper said, "Asterisk, don't get in the car. Your wife wants to kill you." Asterisk. David blinked, startled, thinking he misheard. But Olivia's face said she was dead serious. Before he could speak, Vanessa returned, smiling sweetly, slipping her arm through his. "Ready, darling?" she asked. The billionaire hesitated. The weight of Olivia's words hit him like a truck. He didn't know this waitress. Why would she say something like that? Was it a joke? A mistake? Or was it the truth? Vanessa held out his jacket and keys. Olivia stood frozen near the kitchen, silently begging him with her eyes not to go. And that's when everything started to unravel. What David did next changed everything. But before we get to that, you need to know. This story isn't just about a warning. It's about secrets, betrayal, and how one quiet whisper from a stranger might have saved a billionaire's life. Or was it already too late? David's hand hovered over his keys, eyes flicking between Vanessa's perfect smile and Olivia's anxious face across the room. A second ago, he was just tired, thinking about the long day ahead. Now, a single sentence had thrown him into a mental freefall. Asterisk, don't get in the car. Your wife wants to kill you, asterisk. It sounded insane. But what if it wasn't? Vanessa's hand rested on his arm. Her touch was light, but something about it felt off. Too controlling. "Come on, baby," she said, voice smooth like honey. "Let's go home. You've had enough excitement for one night." He nodded slowly, slipping on his coat, but his mind was racing. Why would a waitress, someone he didn't know, risk saying something like that? Unless she had a reason. The two walked out into the cool night air. Their car, a sleek black Mercedes, sat under the soft glow of a nearby street lamp. Vanessa unlocked it with a click. David paused. He looked at the driver's side. The windows were tinted, but something didn't sit right. Was there someone waiting inside? Was something rigged? His instincts, usually calm when focused in business deals, were now screaming. Meanwhile, Olivia stood at the window, gripping a tray tightly. She knew she shouldn't have said anything. It could have cost her job. But something about Vanessa chilled her to the bone. The way she glanced around like she was rehearsing a part. Olivia had overheard a phone call earlier that evening. Just bits and pieces as she passed their table, but enough to catch Vanessa saying, "Make sure it's ready by the time we leave." She didn't think much of it at the time. But when she saw the drink being swapped out, the little switch Vanessa did when David wasn't looking, that's when alarm bells went off. Back outside, David faked checking a message on his phone. "Hey," he said casually, "I left my watch inside. I'll be right back." Vanessa frowned, eyes narrowing just a little too sharply. "I'll wait in the car," she replied. "Don't take long." He nodded, already turning around. Inside, Olivia had just started cleaning and David walked straight up to her. "What did you mean back there?" he asked, low voice steady but firm. She didn't look surprised. "I saw something," she said. "More than one thing. I think you're in danger, real danger." David studied her face. No sign of a joke, no attempt to manipulate, just real fear. Before he could ask more, his phone buzzed. A message from Vanessa. Kim in the car. "Hurry up. Don't keep me waiting." David looked out the window. The engine had just started. David's eyes stayed locked on the car. The headlights blinked on, casting long beams across the parking lot. He could barely see through the tinted glass, but he thought he saw Vanessa glance toward the restaurant, her silhouette lit by the dashboard glow. His phone buzzed again. Another text. "Don't keep me waiting. You know I hate that." Olivia gently touched his arm. "You need to trust me. There's something going on. I don't know all of it, but I heard enough to know you shouldn't get in that car." Her voice was quiet but steady. "You have to think. Has anything felt strange lately? Has she been acting different?" David didn't want to admit it, but yes. There had been signs, small things that didn't add up. Vanessa had been distant the past few months. More secretive. Long phone calls she'd step out to take. Business trips that didn't match her calendar. She'd insisted on taking control of their joint finances recently, even suggesting they update their wills just in case something ever happened. At the time, he thought she was just being responsible. Now it felt like a trap. Meanwhile, outside in the car, Vanessa sat motionless. Her hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. Her eyes weren't on her phone. They were watching the rearview mirror, watching the restaurant door. Her fingers tapped a rhythm against the leather, like she was waiting for a cue. A moment, the right timing. Back inside, Olivia glanced nervously toward the kitchen, then back at David. "Look, I could get in trouble for this. But earlier I saw her talking to a guy at the bar. He never ordered anything, just sat there and left 5 minutes after they talked. I think he followed her here." David's thoughts raced. A guy at the bar? A car rigged? He was a billionaire, sure, but he'd never imagined his wealth could put him in this kind of danger. It was usually lawsuits or shady investors he had to worry about, not murder plots. He looked around the dining room, then slowly pulled out his phone again, switching to the restaurant's security camera app. He had it installed a while back, a habit from running his company. He tapped into the exterior feed, nothing unusual. Then he zoomed in on a parked van just a few spaces from his own car. Someone sat inside, slouched low, hoodie pulled up. No movement, no license plate visible. David's jaw tightened. This wasn't paranoia anymore. His phone buzzed again. Vanessa's final message. Last chance. Get in the car, or I'm leaving without you. He looked at Olivia. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. Outside, the van door cracked open. David's breath caught as he stared at the van. The door creaked open a few inches more, just enough for a dark boot to plant itself on the pavement. Whoever was inside wasn't making a move yet, but they were watching, waiting. The kind of stillness that didn't come from nerves, but from practice. Someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Inside the restaurant, the lights felt too bright now. The jazz too soft. David's mind was screaming with possibilities. Was Vanessa working alone, or was this something bigger? He took a step back from the window, heart thudding in his chest. Olivia noticed. "You need to leave," she whispered urgently. "But not through the front. There's a back exit by the kitchen." David hesitated. What if she sees me leave? Olivia shook her head. She won't. That car's too far out of sight from the back lot. You go now, you might have a chance. "But then what?" he asked. "Where do I even go?" She didn't have a plan. Neither did he. But they both knew staying here was no longer an option. Meanwhile, Out in the parking lot, Vanessa's smile had faded. Her jaw tightened as she stared at the restaurant doors. No sign of David. She checked her phone. No response. She opened the driver's side door and stepped out, heels clicking on the pavement. She scanned the area, her movements sharp, calculating. Then, subtly, she glanced toward the van. The passenger door opened slightly in return. A nod passed between them. Quick, wordless. Back inside, David followed Olivia past the bar, slipping through the kitchen doors like a shadow. The back hallway was dim and smelled faintly of garlic and old brick. Olivia led him to a metal door with an emergency release latch. This leads to the alley behind the dumpsters. From there, you can circle around the other buildings, maybe find a cab. David grabbed her wrist gently. Why are you helping me? She looked at him serious. Because someone tried something like this with my brother. He didn't make it. The door groaned as it opened into the cool night. The alley was empty, but the hairs on David's neck stood on end. Every sound felt louder now. A dog barking in the distance. A trash can rattling somewhere to the right. He stepped out. Olivia held the door just a little longer. Be careful, she said. But before she could shut it, a shadow moved at the alley's end. And someone started walking toward them. David froze. The figure at the end of the alley moved slowly, purposefully. Not rushing, but not hesitating either. The kind of walk that said, asterisk, I already know how this ends, asterisk. His first instinct was to step back into the restaurant, but Olivia grabbed his arm and whispered, no. If they see you panic, they'll know we're onto them. The alley felt like it was shrinking with every step the figure took. David strained to see through the shadows, but the dim light only caught the edges of a hood, dark jeans, and something clutched in one hand, shiny, metallic. Not a weapon, at least not obviously. A phone, a tool, something worse. Then, without warning, the alley door on the opposite end creaked open. A second person stepped out, blocking the only other way out. David's pulse shot up. Two of them now, no doubt. They weren't random. This was planned. He glanced at Olivia. Her face had gone pale, her mouth set in a tight line. Then came the second twist. David's phone vibrated in his pocket. Not a message this time. A call, from Vanessa *. He answered it without thinking, voice low and tense. What do you want? Her tone was calm, too calm. I was hoping you'd get in the car, but I suppose you made your choice. David glanced back at the restaurant door behind him, now shut. No turning back. I don't know what you think you're doing, he said, trying to stall, to get any information he could. Vanessa chuckled softly. I think you're smarter than I gave you credit for, but it's too late now, David. You really should have stayed in the car. Then the call ended. The man in the hoodie took another step forward, and that's when David noticed something strange. The shiny object in his hand. It wasn't a weapon. It was an badge *. David Cole, the man said. We need to talk. You're in danger. Olivia's eyes widened. Wait, what? The man pulled back his hood slightly, revealing a sharp-eyed face and a clipped tone. We've been following Vanessa for months. We didn't expect her to move tonight. You just became the bait. David's stomach turned. Everything shifted. But before he could process it, the second man, the one behind them, called out, We've got movement. Someone's coming around the corner fast. The agent looked at David. If you want to live, we need to go *. But David hesitated, because deep down, he still didn't know who he could trust. David stood frozen between two choices, follow the man with the badge or run. His instincts screamed not to trust anyone. But the urgency in the agent's voice was real, and the sound of fast-approaching footsteps around the alley corner left no time to think. Olivia gave him a desperate nudge. Go. They sprinted. The agent led them through a side gate that opened onto another street. A black SUV sat idling across the road. As they reached it, the second agent jumped in the back seat, pulling open the door for David and Olivia. Just as the SUV peeled away, tires screeched behind them. Vanessa's car. She was driving. Alone. No hesitation in her eyes, just cold, focused determination. Her headlights locked onto them like targets. The agent in the front seat pulled out a phone and barked, "She's moving. Confirm plan B now." I repeat, now. David ducked as Vanessa's car closed in behind them. But just before impact, a second black SUV swerved into her path, forcing her off the road and into a row of trash bins. Metal clanged and glass shattered, the car jerking to a stop. David turned in his seat, heart pounding, watching as plainclothes officers surrounded the vehicle. Vanessa was dragged out, still screaming, "He betrayed me. He had it coming." The agent beside David nodded. "She hired a contract hitman 6 months ago. We were tracking her communication, trying to catch the guy. But tonight changed everything. She decided to do it herself." David sat in stunned silence. His wife, his partner of 5 years, had tried to end his life with her own hands. But just as the relief started to settle in, the twist came. The agent in the front seat got another call. He answered with a clipped, "Go ahead." Then his face went pale. He turned around slowly. "The man she met at the bar tonight," he said, voice tight. "He wasn't the original hitman. He was a backup. He's still out there, and we lost him." David blinked. "What do you mean lost him?" The agent held up the photo Vanessa had sent earlier. The man in the hoodie at the bar. Olivia gasped. David recognized the face. It wasn't just some stranger. It was someone from his past. Someone who had once worked for him, and who had a reason to want him dead. The SUV sped down the dark road, silence settling heavy between them. Because while Vanessa was in custody, the real danger had just begun. The SUV continued through the quiet streets, headlights cutting through the darkness. David leaned back, eyes locked on the photo in the agent's hand. The face staring back at him belonged to Marcus Vale, a former employee who had been fired 2 years ago after embezzling money from one of David's early tech startups. Marcus had vanished after a failed court case, and David hadn't thought of him since. Now he was back, tangled in a murder plot led by the woman David had once trusted most. David glanced at Olivia, who sat quietly beside him, her hands folded in her lap. She had risked everything, her job, her safety, to warn him. If it hadn't been for her, he would have stepped right into the trap. Her courage had shifted everything. "Why, Marcus?" David finally asked, voice low. The agent nodded. "We think Vanessa reached out to him, thinking he'd still have a grudge. Turns out she was right. He had nothing left to lose, and she offered him a way to settle old scores with a big payout." As they reached a secure location, a safe house temporarily arranged by authorities, David stepped out into the early morning light. The air was crisp, quiet, and carried the weight of everything that had just happened. The betrayal, the chase, the narrow escape. It all felt surreal. Vanessa was in custody. She had confessed to planning the murder, but her lawyer was already spinning the story as a moment of emotional instability. The real threat, though, was still out there. Marcus had disappeared again. His name was flagged across airports, highways, and financial systems, but he was a ghost now. Clever, angry, and dangerous. David made the decision to step back from the public spotlight. He released a brief statement to his investors, claiming personal matters needed his attention. Behind the scenes, he ramped up private security, relocated temporarily, and started untangling the financial ties Vanessa had left behind. And Olivia? He didn't forget her. With gratitude deeper than words, he offered her a new job, not as a waitress, but as part of his personal staff. She declined at first, saying she wasn't looking for anything in return. But eventually she agreed on her terms. She would help him quietly, from behind the scenes. Someone to watch what others missed. Weeks passed, life moved on. But David never stopped checking the locks twice, scanning unfamiliar faces in a crowd, or watching the rearview mirror. Because while the worst night of his life was behind him, the man who vanished in the dark hadn't finished his part of the story. And somewhere out there, the past was still waiting. And something didn't feel right.